Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I review martial arts books and talk about other martial arts related subjects. And in today's book review, I'm going to be looking at Sanshou, The Complete Fighting System by Cung Lee and Glenn Cordoza. Cung Lee is pretty notable in the martial arts community. For the longest time, he was like the Sanshou guy in the United States. He made a name for himself doing Sanshou matches, which is a little unusual considering that they were on kickboxing cards because nobody else was really doing Sanshou in the US at that level at that time. And then he got into mixed martial arts, including Strikeforce and the UFC. And he's done some movie roles as well. Glenn Cordoza, I was able to find that he had a 3-1 record in mixed martial arts, and his biography says that he's done some kickboxing in the United States and Thailand. But beyond that, he's really known as being an author or co-author of several martial arts books, many from the Victory Belt publication company, which this is a book from there. They used to do a lot of like martial arts / combat sports stuff. You know, some incredibly well-known fighters, including Cung Lee and Randy Couture and Fedor Emelianenko and Anderson Silva and BJ Penn. They don't seem to be doing that anymore, so I should count myself lucky to have bought this book before they stopped doing that. But my point is, Mr. Cordoza is a co-author on many of those, and seems pretty integral into the success of the writing of these books. So the intro to this book is mostly autobiographical when it comes to Cung Lee, and focuses on his martial arts training and development. He started off with a background in Taekwondo and then wrestled through high school and picked up a few other martial arts, learned some stuff from Muay Thai and boxing and Vivonam. And it's interesting that he's most known for Sanshou, which, for those not familiar, looks very much like kickboxing, except also with throws. A takedown will not score, I don't think, if your knee hits the ground first, so you don't see a lot of that collegiate penetration step style entries. But other than that, yeah, it's kickboxing with like takedowns and suplexes and slams. And it's most associated with being the fighting aspect of Chinese martial arts. And what's interesting is that Chinese martial arts don't appear to play a large role, or perhaps any role, in his background. But he knew how to kick, he knew how to punch, and he knew how to go for throws. So when the opportunity to participate in this type of thing came up, you know, he went into it and did extremely well. Concerning the contents of the book itself, it's very much about Mr. Lee's approach to Sanshou. And I guess because of his varied background, he does have a distinct style from what you see actually coming out of China. He's pretty famous for his spinning scissors takedown, which I think probably comes from Vivonam, you know, based on, you know, the highlights I've seen of that martial art and the fact that this particular technique doesn't really show up in a whole lot of other places. Anyway, instruction-wise, the book starts off with a chapter on the sidekick, including combinations, setups, using it as a feint. Interestingly, in this part, like it'll go over the sidekick a lot, but it will just not really talk about the other associated strikes. Like, here's 2 pages on how to throw the side kick. And by the way, after you throw a side kick, here's a punch, here's a spinning back kick, and here's another thing. I find it interesting that the side kick gets as much attention as it does, but the support techniques around it, the techniques used in combination, don't get nearly as much detail. Next is a chapter on striking into takedowns. And he goes from individual strikes as well as striking combinations into single leg and double leg positions. And one thing notable in this section is that he will advise not to use takedowns as counters. He talks about seeing other people use takedowns to counter incoming strikes. His philosophy is that strikes are unpredictable. So he would rather start throwing strikes and get the opponent to shell up and defend against those, get their arms raised up, and then move in for his takedowns. And that's followed by a chapter on finishes to the single leg and the double leg. And what determines whether or not he goes for a single or a double is primarily whether he is in the same side stance as his opponent or the opposite side stance. So if he's got his right leg forward, they have their left leg forward, he'll try to go for a single. If they're both standing with their right leg forward, he'll try to go for a double. Also notable, I skipped this part. Right up at the beginning, he also has a brief section on stance work. And he talks about 2 kinds of stance, the quote-unquote standard stance, which is standard. It's more your kickboxing style, it's a bit more squared up. And then he talks about a Chinese stance. That's his expression. And that's more side on. It looks like he's almost in like a shoulder roll position. And he says that one's pretty good for throwing side kicks. But he also mentions that, really limits your use of your rear side weapons. But yeah, so going into the chapter on the takedown finishes, it not only includes like standard wrestling finishes that you would find, like, running the pipe for a single leg. You'll also get stuff like transitioning into a body lock, and also, if the guy starts to fight out of the takedown attempt, to back off and just start throwing strikes. And I do like here how he is blending, not just striking into the takedown, but okay, you can't get your takedown, don't keep chasing it, you can still punch the guy. So go ahead and do that. It's an option. After that, he has a section on defenses against strikes and counters. His emphasis tends to be on evasion, on backing off and then coming back in. He will focus on side kicks, round kicks at all levels, leg, body, and head, as well as incoming punches. And appropriately following that, there's a chapter on catching kicks, both straight kicks and round kicks. And he will use these kick catches to set up things like throws, sweeps, and of course other strikes. There's a brief section on defense against single and double leg takedowns, and then there's a larger section on clinch work. Most of his clinch stuff focuses on throws and trips. There's a nice subsection in there where he's talking about what to do, how to work your clinch after you've caught and intercepted your opponent's knee strike. And I think that's really cool. And again, that's not particularly common in martial arts books. So you're in a clinch, the guy throws a knee, you catch it, here's what to do after that. Again, primarily focused on like sweeps and throws. He finishes up with a section on drills, and the drills are on all aspects of Sanshou. So he actually starts off with drills with the throwing dummy, and it's throwing. You throw the dummy. That's what you do with a throwing dummy. And then has stuff with the banana bag, the heavy bag, and also drills with the kick shield. At this point, he will actually show like jumping knees. He throws in a jump spin kick in there, and also work on Thai pads, the Muay Thai style kick pads, and drills to do with a partner, which includes kicking drills where one of you is holding a Thai pad each. You kick, I kick, you kick, I kick. And also drills to do when you're fully gloved up. So the pros of this book, it's in-depth and really explores some areas that I haven't seen a whole lot of other books go into. Like catching the knee when you're in the clinch and what to do after that. Or, he goes really in depth on the use of the sidekick, including his famous, spinning scissors takedown off of a missed sidekick. I also like how in this book he will do a lot of blending of the strikes with the throws and the takedowns. The partner drills are a real plus in this as well. And I know I bag on a lot of these books about the quality of the photos. The thing about the Victory Belt books, including this one, is that the photos are awesome. They are in color. There are multiple angles of the same technique very often, including in this book. And the outline of the photos from one sequence to the next is color-coded, so you're like, okay, it's yellow if it's the view from the front, and it's blue if it's the view from the side, and it's red if it's the view from the back. I'm probably getting those colors wrong, but the point is you can follow, through the different pages, exactly what photo goes in which order, at which angle. This is a very good book, and if there's a negative, it's that it's more of an inconsistency. We get pages of depth on the sidekick, and he gives the round kick like a full page, the rear round kick a full page, but doesn't really pay that much attention to the other strikes. So again, it's just a little bit unusual. It's difficult to really call it a negative. I think, and this segues very well into my recommendations, if you are someone who already has a background in, let's say, Muay Thai or K1 style kickboxing, you probably don't need an in-depth explanation of, jab, cross, hook, uppercut. But maybe the sidekick does need a little bit of extra attention if you're not used to having that in your background. So, again, recommendations. Who would I recommend this to? I don't think it works well for a raw beginner because, again, a lot of the fundamental striking techniques just don't get that much attention. But if you have a kickboxing background and you would like to get into Sanshou, if you would like to get into incorporating a sidekick into your arsenal, or if you would like to transition into mixed martial arts, the stand-up, Sanshou is in many ways the stand-up portion of mixed martial arts, because you have a kickboxing arsenal including knees, and then you also have throws and takedowns. So, everything except the groundwork and the cage work, I guess. It would be good for people who, again, already have a striking background, but want to transition into something that allows throws and takedowns and clinch work. And strategically, even if you are not a throw or takedown specialist, getting good at one or two of those things in that environment can really be used to your advantage. Um, for instance, in mixed martial arts, I think there was a time when Robbie Lawler in the UFC, during his second stint, had one of the highest takedown percentages in his division. Similarly with Donald Cerrone. And it's weird because they were mostly known as strikers. But the thing is, if you expect the guy to throw punches and you're covering up and defending against his punches, you're not going to expect the double leg. You're not going to expect the foot sweep. So, this strategically could be very useful for someone transitioning from a striking only environment to Sanshou/Sanda and to mixed martial arts. And as with all victory belt books, if you can get your hands on this, the pictures are stunning, very incredibly well done. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of this. So anyway, that's all I have for this week, and hope to see you guys next week. Thank you.